Welcome to Broadband Breakfast Live Online. My name is Drew Clark. I'm editor and publisher of Broadband Breakfast. Today is Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. Welcome Breakfast to Live Online. 2022 and Happy New Year to everyone. We have a very special show live from Las Vegas today. One of our reporters is at the CES, formerly known as the Consumer Electronics Show, now just CES 2022. And we'll be hearing on the ground report about some of the innovations and activities happening at CES 2022, which just opened minutes ago, and will continue for the next 2 days until Friday, and we'll be there the whole time. But before we introduce our guest for the discussion, I want to say a couple of quick items about program and upcoming weeks. Next Wednesday, January 12th, is our Broadband Breakfast for Lunch event. We are here Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time every Wednesday online, but on the second Wednesdays of the month, we're also in person in Washington, D.C. So those of you who are in Washington and would like to attend, please register to attend that. And we look forward to seeing many of you there. Obviously, we hope you'll be vaccinated and show up to participate in-person broadband breakfast for lunch. And our event next week will be talking about the agenda of the tech and telecom industries, and look forward to announcing some really great panelists. And I should mention, panelists and guests will be both virtual and in person. That's why we're doing this online and in person, so that you'll be able to participate on an equal level, whether you're attending in person or virtually, either as a panelist or as a person. But all that said, we prefer to see you in person. So we hope that you can attend. I also just want to mention that we are excited to be every week with some topic or another, and are looking forward to topics. We haven't put our agenda out yet, but we're busy at work on topics including the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, net neutrality, privacy, telemedicine, broadband mapping, and the role that states are going to play in broadband deployment. Those are some of our upcoming events. And I also want to give a shout out and a thanks to all of our sponsors for Broadband Breakfast Live Online. We appreciate them. We couldn't do this without them. They are Lit Communities, Utopia Fiber, Broadband Money, Powerhouse Management, Broadband Now, Samsung, Lightbox, Render Networks, Positron Access, and the California Emerging Technology Fund. So thank you to our sponsors, and you can visit and learn more about sponsorship at the link that I'll send in just a moment. But let's go ahead and bring on our guest. We are very happy to have Justin Perkins, who is a reporter with Broadband Breakfast. Thank you so much for being there on the ground, Justin. Justin is a graduate of Howard University Law School and brings a great deal of expertise and knowledge to his reporting for Broadband Breakfast on a range of topics. I believe this is his first CES, so welcome, Justin. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what it's like to be there live in Las Vegas.
Awesome. Good morning, Drew, and Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to our viewers. My name is Justin Perkins. I'm a recent graduate of Howard University School of Law. I have a background in telecommunications policy, with experience at the FCC in Commissioner Starks' office, and also Comcast, NBC Universal, and their legal department. And now, most recently, I am on the ground here in Las Vegas for CES 2022. I'm really excited to be here. I got my badge last night, and really just want to talk about first the atmosphere here. There's a lot of excitement despite the high-profile last-minute withdrawals from some of the big tech companies like Meta and Google. But nevertheless, there's still a lot of excitement. This is my first CES, but many of the attendees have told me that the attendance is a little bit slim compared to previous years. However, the excitement's still there, and all the attendees and exhibitors are looking forward to showcasing the new technology.
So wonderful, Justin. I wanted to maybe get a sense from you about what, again, just a little more logistically there. You had to show proof of vaccination to get your press pass, and obviously most places you're going on the floor, you're wearing a mask. We appreciate you speaking to us here so we can see your mouth. But tell us just a little bit more about like the precautions. I was watching the CES kickoff just a few minutes ago, and there were a lot of snide comments in the gallery saying, "Well, where are all the masks?" And so I just wanted to maybe give a little flavor for how cautions and precautions are being taken there.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big emphasis this year, for CES has been the coronavirus pandemic. And so the conference has taken a lot of precautions to minimize the spread, in the hopes that, all the attendees and the exhibitors are staying safe and conducting the conference in a safe way. So upon arrival, all the attendees must show proof of vaccination. So I had to show my vaccination card, and also, my booster. And I was given a pass that confirmed my vaccination status. And then also, they have increased social distancing measures. They have attendees all around the venue, ensuring that attendees are following proper precautions. And they also have, lots of hand sanitizing stations. They've given out free at-home COVID tests, so that the attendees can go back to their hotel room and take a rapid test that'll come back in 15 minutes. So they've taken a lot of steps to really ensure that the conference is well attended, for one, but also that they have, minimizing the risk, because obviously there's, the new Omicron variant that has made a lot of attendees and some of the vendors and exhibitors nervous about attending, and that's why some have pulled back. But the conference has at least assured me and many of the other attendees that it's safe to attend.
Okay, wonderful. It's great to get that on the ground flavor, and CES is kind of like a bit of a holiday New Year's tradition for me. I remember covering it. I think the last time I attended was 3 years ago, 2019. But I've been part of publications that cover it. It's a week-long event. It's a crucial watering hole. I mean, it's huge. Normally, it's just overwhelming. It's the largest trade show in the world, right? And I'm sure it's maybe a little more manageable. In some ways, it might be a little more pleasant to be there and interact. But it's kind of like a bit of a New Year's tradition, because every tech company is rolling out what they've either done or will do in the first quarter or the first months of 2022. It's obviously the place for many companies. Let's talk about a few of those big companies. For example, last night there was a keynote by Samsung. Tell us a little bit about that, Justin. I understand you had a chance to watch that in person.
I did have a chance to watch the keynote in person, and it was electrifying. The experience of being there in person, and just huddling around everyone with the excitement of new technology that's being unveiled. It's something unique that we haven't seen in about 2 years.
Yeah.
And so the experience of being in person, is really unique. And the Samsung CEO, J.H. Han, did a really good job of drawing excitement, and showcasing some of Samsung's new plans for this year and beyond.
And go ahead and lay out a couple of those. I saw it live streamed, right? And many of these CES events, not all of them, not even half of them, are being live streamed, but some of them are, and this was one. So I had a chance to watch it. But say a little bit more, Justin, about the events that or the announcements that the CEO spoke about last night.
Yeah, absolutely. So Samsung CEO Jay Han, some of his main points at yesterday's keynote were sustainability and industry collaboration. So Samsung's vision for the future, he really highlighted the need to protect our environment. Sustainability and environmental sustainability has been a huge focus for big tech over the past few years. And so Jay Chan really explained how Samsung is investing in sustainability. He said one thing that stuck out was the 3 R's are not enough. Reduce, reuse, recycle is simply not enough, and we have to do more. And their strategy is to make smaller changes in their business operation, their manufacturing process, to help make a bigger difference in their environmental impact. And so one of the ways that they're doing this is building sustainability into their product design and keeping sustainability and their products' environmental impact in mind throughout the entire product life cycle, all the way from design to manufacturing to e-waste, and the proper use and reuse of e-waste. And so that big focus is sustainability and making sure that we can build a sustainable, greener world.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And I think you're definitely right in highlighting there's an evolutionary shift and the sustainability. I'm sure we'll hear more about that from other companies, but Samsung certainly made an emphasis of this. One of the other big changes over the last, let's just say 15 years, is from the desktop to the phone, and now we're almost in another phase beyond the phone. I mean, when my last CES in 2019, I definitely remember that being a big focus, moving beyond the phone to everywhere, Internet of Things type of everywhere. But one sort of aspect of CES lore, I guess, that I recall is always the night before the show opened, it was Bill Gates of Microsoft who gave that keynote in the spot that Samsung spoke. And I believe right now, while we're talking, of course, because this is our regular time, Mary Bada, I hope I haven't gotten the name completely wrong. I had it right here, but the CEO of GM is speaking right now, and I believe that she spoke again. Like last year, of course, CES was all virtual, right? So there was no in person, but I believe they had a spot and keynotes, and so transportation companies, car companies are now huge into CES and making a big pitch, and there's new things, new topics. For example, I heard food technology and space technology and digital assets. So again, I know it's early in the show, but what are some of the kind of vibes you're getting about the changes in technology that are beginning to impact the industry in general, Justin?
Absolutely. I was doing research on CES last night, and I came across that the CD player was introduced at CES. And so the long history and the evolution of the way that our technology has developed and new trends that are emerging, and the smart home technology and connecting people to technology beyond the phone is definitely an emphasis for CES and a focus for many of the exhibitors and speakers this year. Just last night at Samsung's keynote, they announced a new home connectivity alliance with the goal of connecting manufacturers of smart appliances, from GM, Samsung, the refrigerators, their washer machines. They really want to have an open, collaborative environment where companies can help to utilize each other's smart technology to create a better experience and better interoperability for consumers. And so the Home Connectivity Alliance was established by Samsung and has partner organizations with GM and other big smart appliance manufacturers, and they really want to enable full interoperability among those group products, and to enable consumers to have more choices. And that's another big emphasis, is giving consumers more options. We're at a point now where just having a phone is not enough. Just having a smartphone is not enough. consumers want to be able to personalize their devices and personalize their experiences. And that's a long way from where we were 5 years ago, when we were amazed at having these technologies at our fingertips in the first place. And so some of our favorite products, TVs, phones, companies want to be able to have those experiences interoperable. Customers want to be able to use devices from multiple companies absolutely seamlessly. And so that's another emphasis, is making sure that consumers have more choices, and they don't feel like they're being locked into any one service or any one product line.
Well, I mean, some companies want to have openness, right? I mean, one notable absence, always consistently absent from CES, is Apple, right? Because Apple's always a kind of a go it itself, and they do their own product announcements, and seems to be quite successful at doing things differently, if you will. But obviously others don't take that same kind of closed architecture approach, or at least they argue that they don't. And what you're just mentioning here, Justin, is kind of alluding to many factors and companies that are talking about an open alliances. We have a question here. We want to encourage your questions. Please feel free to put them in the chat window. We may even have an opportunity to highlight you if you'd like to ask a question. But Odette Wilkins has asked a question. Were there any discussion on the health impacts of electromagnetic frequency radiation be emitted from cell phones, cell towers, smart meters? There are many people and children suffering from smart technology. What can we do to help them? So this is a question I've actually started to hear more frequently. I guess historically has been some concern about electromagnetic emissions from cellular radiation. Most of those concerns, at least in the pre-5G era, were put to bed, put to rest. But now that there's more transmitters everywhere, there is a kind of an increasing drumbeat to address this, or at least perhaps update or freshen up studies. But let's just ask if you've heard any discussion of this here, Justin, at the show.
Great. So thank you for the question. I haven't heard about any sessions or comments related to 5G interference yet, but there are going to be sessions. There are quite a few sessions on 5G and its impact. And as we know, 5G is new cellular technology that's going to be distributed hopefully very soon this year. But there's been concern about interference with 5G with various technologies. For example, the Airline Industry Association recently filed comments with the FCC to prevent AT&T and Verizon from deploying 5G around airports, because they were concerned about 5G interference with aircraft radio altimeters. And so there is discussion about 5G's impact, not on its impact on consumers or communities from a health perspective yet, but from a deployment and infrastructure perspective, there's definitely going to be a lot of conversation about that in the coming days.
Thank you for that question. One of the things we focus on at Broadband Breakfast, our motto is better broadband, better lives. So obviously we care about connectivity, issues of higher capacity connectivity. To us, politics and technology are really at the core of what we cover. So we're very interested in the policies, right? And there will be a number of policy discussions over the next few days. I just saw a press release yesterday that the largest number of senators is at this CES than ever before, which is quite an accomplishment given COVID. I just heard Gary Shapiro's kickoff again, half an hour ago or less. He basically use the mantra we have heard over the years from the tech industry, making the world a better place. In some ways, it's kind of been mocked by the Silicon Valley HBO series and sort of shown to be a little bit of a cynical statement. I do want to kind of get at this issue of tech as a helper or as a hindrance. And at the moment, we're definitely still in this place where tech is viewed increasingly negatively, right? That wasn't the case 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Tech was like the cool thing. Now there's still a techlash, there's still a backlash. My question for you, Justin, is as you're there, what are you kind of thinking and feeling about the role of tech in our society and in our culture and our political, right? And Gary just had a line where he said, he got applause for this. He said, we need reasonable guidelines. He was basically talking about mergers and acquisitions, right? And what kind of rules for the road so that American companies aren't punished. So I just want to get your sense of what the vibe is about kind of the role that tech and the power of big tech companies in particular are playing, Justin.
Absolutely. I mean, we know about the concern that consumers have and many Americans have, and regulators have about big tech's role and whether it is being used as a force for good. And I think the vibe that I'm getting here, what I'm picking up is that many of the exhibitors, many of the speakers are of the position that technology, especially over the past 2 years, has really been a force of innovation, and has really been a force to keep humanity connected and safe. And I think they see that as a noble objective, as a way to keep Americans safe and at home during online orders. Many companies are invested in home technologies like Samsung, like Google. And so it's important that they emphasize how their technologies are assisting consumers to keep them safe and connected at the same time. Now, COVID has forced many aspects of life online, and in the opening keynote, Gary Shapiro, he really emphasized how technology has been a force against the coronavirus pandemic. For example, incorporating artificial intelligence into vaccine development is kind of a lesser known part of our vaccine deployment, but that has been a key part in developing vaccines, doing research, and that technology would not have been available previously a few years ago. And so it's important for these companies and these industry groups to be able to emphasize how technology is really working to fight the pandemic.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I definitely heard that as well from Gary when he made the point that, and I mean, I jotted a couple quick notes. He said, think of the world without the internet, without remote work, without streaming, without contactless deliveries, without telehealth, right? If this pandemic had struck 30 years ago, 20 years ago, before the internet was as widely adopted, there'd definitely be a different experience. We have another question from Doreen Cornwall. Thank you for the comments about people wanting to customize their experiences. For me, one of the cool things is ubiquity and diversity of accessibility features. I would be interested to hear whether some of these features got demoed in the regular course of presentations. So, Justin.
So at the Samsung presentation, they haven't, they didn't get a chance to demo the accessibility features that are available on their devices. They did demo one of their new products, which is a projector. They call it the Freestyle, the Samsung Freestyle, and that is supposed to be kind of a ubiquitous, portable projector that anybody can use, that can connect to any smart device, and that's supposed to be a way for anyone, anywhere, to have a screen that they can project on the wall or on the ceiling. And so they're really so Samsung has really emphasized, interoperability in a way for consumers to use devices in the way that's best for them. But there are going to be sessions later today um, about accessibility and improving the user experience for various technologies that are upcoming and the ones that are already existing. It's later today, so I'll have more related to accessibility and technology later today. But for now, the Samsung Freestyle was one of the only products that I got to demo.
Well, again, the show has just opened, just begun. We're glad that Justin's on the ground there. We'll be covering the event both from his reporting and other reporters at Broadband Breakfast doing live stream events throughout the week and early next week on broadbandbreakfast.com. I had a chance to catch another keynote or another press briefing yesterday by Intel. The Intel CEO spoke about, I guess he called it 4 computing superpowers, talked about, kind of computing everywhere, end to end, from the cloud to the edge, about connectivity everywhere and AI, and then proceeded to discuss upcoming developments in Intel's platforms. And there's a lot of geek speak. There's a lot of propeller head stuff at all of these presentations, and we certainly can't cover everything about tech and the tech specs. That's not what we're about. We're focusing on the politics of technology and the telecommunications, the role that broadband plays in society. But again, maybe just another question for you here, Justin, about computing and connectivity and how those two go hand in hand, how you've seen that at CES this year or at other times, and maybe some of your experience on the integration of computing and connectivity.
Yeah, absolutely. There is there's lots of innovation in this area. We talked about with Samsung, their presentation yesterday, and how they wanted to really incorporate connectivity across devices and services. And so one of the ways that they're doing that is first with the Home Connectivity Alliance, but they've also created things like the Samsung's gaming hub, and this is supposed to be a gaming hub where they've compiled a lot of gaming services and platforms into one app, and you can use your Xbox or other gaming controller. So they're really trying to find ways for consumers to connect different devices with different products. And another note that I'll add is they're trying to do all of this with the backdrop of sustainability in mind. And so like Samsung, they've emphasized how their products and their devices are really important to keeping families connected inside and outside of the home with their phones, smart and other smart appliances. But they've also emphasized how sustainability to them is just as important as the products that they're making. And so, some of their favorite products like the Samsung AirPods, or their version of the AirPods, and their smart refrigerator are made from recycled materials. And they're using 30 times more recycled materials than they were over the past few years. And all of their TV boxes and TVs are one of their biggest sellers. Are made All of the TV boxes are made from recycled materials, from the plastic to the styrofoam to the box holders. And so they're calling this eco packaging and finding more ways to use the waste. And another way that they're trying to incorporate sustainability is by having the goal of 2025 operating on zero standby power, so they don't use energy. So the products don't use energy when they're idle, and that would be a big deal. By using that, incorporating that technology, and hopefully disseminating it, other companies and other products might be able to have their products use zero standby power, and they've already hinted at the possibility of making more of their technologies open and accessible. They have a new remote that is solar powered, and they have I believe that they just released a new one that can be charged using wireless uh, signals, and
Yeah.
they've opened the technology for that product out so that other companies can use the technology that's behind it. And that I was really impressed by that, because in this era of competition, um companies want to have any technological advantage that they can. And so to see a shift where Samsung is saying, we want, sustainability is so important to us, innovation is so important to us, and collaboration, that we are willing to open this technology and make it more open. I think
Yeah.
this is really signaling a shift towards more collaboration, like I talked about earlier.
Yeah, awesome. We have another question here from Larry Stirs. He says, hard to imagine ubiquitous connectivity without talking again about wearable technology, glasses, watches, etc. There was certainly a bubble of interest in glasses and watches a few years back. Has that faded, or is there still some excitement about that, to Justin?
Yeah, I think there hasn't been a whole lot of talk about glasses, but we know that other wearables like watches, and other health wearables have absolutely skyrocketed over the past few years. Not really sure why glasses haven't taken off. Maybe it's developing the technology, or its utility. I'm not quite sure, but certainly wearables has taken off and still going strong. I've got my Apple Watch here. Obviously, Apple's not here, but Samsung and their line of Galaxy watches is still popular. And they're continuing to update those lines, and they've also that ties into this idea of connecting our devices. Again, wearables are becoming an extension of ourselves. Don't even think about putting on a smartwatch or putting on a Fitbit anymore. And so this idea of you know people wanting hyper personalized devices and products and services is not something that's far off, because we see it with wearables. We see that with the way that wearables interact with other health devices that we have and other health services that we have. So it's all connected. Not a whole lot of interest from what I've seen of glasses, but definitely from other wearables.
Yeah. Well, at least one more area that I want to ask you about right now, Justin, is the issue of diversity and inclusion. And again, this was a point that was just made in the keynote address by Gary Shapiro. He referenced the 2019 commitment that CES and the Consumer Technology Association had to greater diversity and inclusion. And I think we're seeing a little bit of this in terms of like sharing the stage with people of all races and genders. What are your observations about this question of the tech world and its commitment to diversity?
Absolutely. I think over the past 2 years, since 2020, we've really seen an increase in an interest and a commitment to social justice, to racial justice, and to diversity and inclusion. Um, there are sessions later today about actually what 2020 can teach us about diversity and inclusion. And I think that it's a really timely discussion. Um, the technology industry has historically been underrepresented by people of color, and so it's really important for some companies to promote diversity and inclusion. Lyft, their diversity and inclusion officer, is here, and they'll be doing a talk later today about diversity and inclusion and how technology can support diversity and inclusion. I think that's an area that has gained a lot of interest over the past year, over the past 2 years, is how technology is helping or hurting our fight to racial justice and diversity and inclusion. We know that algorithmic processing and the use of consumer data can sometimes reflect the biases that we see in the real world. These can be things like banking, to credit, to housing. Companies and their algorithms and their business practices, the way that they develop devices, or the way that they develop services, can really have an impact on the way that people perceive and operate within bias in the real world. And so I think it's really fitting that there are sessions this year that are related to how companies can use technology to support diversity and inclusion. And there's lots of ways that can be done. LinkedIn, for example, has begun deploying or issuing a new questionnaire that will help its users that are historically underrepresented have more equality in the algorithm in their search features of LinkedIn. And so we can see that companies are looking at how their software is playing a role in supporting diversity and inclusion.
Well, wonderful. Justin, I'm going to give you a chance to offer any final thoughts, and maybe also your own thoughts about the issues that you're going to see come down the pike in 2022. Before we go to those final remarks, I just want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know you're kind of eager to go to the different events and the show floor there. And again, please visit broadbandbreakfast.com. We are updating the site constantly during business days. Make sure you're signed up for our events. Going to these events every Wednesday at 12 noon. And next week in particular, we're going to be live and in person in Washington, D.C. Justin, before we let you go, what are some final thoughts about CES or about 2022 that you're seeing from the perspective of broadband capacity, the tech industry, and the impact that broadband has on us as a society?
Absolutely. Well, first, Drew, thank you, and thank you to your listeners. Really excited to be here at CES. And one thing I'm really looking forward to seeing over the next 2 days is really how broadband and broadband's importance is going to influence the way that these technologies develop. At Samsung's keynote last night, I was thinking to myself, broadband and having a strong, stable, reliable connection is going to be fundamental to making sure that these technologies work as well as they're advertised, and as well as they're supposed to. All of our home connected devices. If we want to see a future where all consumers are connected to these type of technologies, we have to connect to broadband. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing the interplay between the broadband connection and our reliance on that strong connection to have an impact on the way that consumers live, through these services.
Wonderful. Thank you for being with us. Thank you to all of you for spending this time with us. We'll let Justin go and continue his reporting. On behalf of Justin Perkins, reporter at Broadband Breakfast, I'm Drew Clark, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Take care. Bye-bye.